Welcome to this week's episode of Future Fridays, where we chat about future tech headlines from the week. I'm your host, Wiz, and you can find me on Twitter at WizLikeWizard. Today, we've got a special Canadian edition. We've got three lovely guests who are all from Canada. I'm going to have them each go around and give a short 280-character intro, as well as their hometown from Canada. And then we also have Yael, who's a cartoonist, and he'll be doodling with us for fun. You can find her on Instagram at Yaelisms. Cool. Greg, you want to start? Short 280-character intro.
Sure.
We're in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm originally from Montreal, Canada. I live in New York City. I'm the head of product strategy at WeWork. I'm a growth advisor to TikTok, invest and advise a bunch of companies.
Awesome. Jay?
Partner at Rhino Ventures, early stage fund, backing the best and brightest entrepreneurs in Western Canada. Board member on Thinkific and a bunch of other local businesses here. Born and raised in Toronto, so go Leafs go.
And Sid?
Sid Paquette, I'd be the head of technology and innovation banking at RBC, ex-VC, ex-angel investor as well, and advisor to a number of Canadian and US technology companies.
And where in Canada are you originally from?
Toronto.
Nice. Got a bunch of East Coasters. I'm from Vancouver, so balancing the field. Cool. Jump in. We're gonna before we jump in, just wanted to say that all of the headlines that we're going to talk about this week come from a newsletter that I work on called This Week in Creative Technology. Each week we feature about 30 headlines like the ones we're going to go over today. So for anyone watching, feel free to join at bit.ly/join Future Fridays. So we'll kick off today with a game. This is round one. There's going to be 3 games, and there's going to be an awesome prize for the winner as well. This first round is worth 5 points. And it's called Real or Fake. So we've got 3 headlines here, which I'm going to read out. 2 of them are in fact real, and 1 of them is fake. When I'm done reading them out, we're going to do a rock, paper, scissors style shoot, and you're just going to hold up 1 to 3, whichever headline you think is the fake one, and 5 points to anyone who gets the fake one right. So first headline here is, New Yorkers can now officially get married over Zoom. Second one is, new tech uses shells from crustaceans to power VR and AR devices. And final headline here, number 3, scientists can tell type of music you listen to by examining your earwax. So we'll do rock, paper, scissors, and then shoot. So shoot 1 to 3, whatever you think the answer is, and hold it up, and then I'll record whoever got it right. So rock, Greg, paper, scissors, and shoot. So we got 2, 2, and 2. Oh, wow. So you are all, in fact, wrong. Oh, no, you're right. No, sorry, you're wrong. The fake one is actually number 3, which is that scientists can tell the type of music you listen to by your earwax. The other 2 are, in fact, right. The second one's interesting. This is talking about alternative energy forms. Basically, how can we derive energy from different sources other than like lithium ion that we're tied to today? And they found a way to do it with crustacean shells. So no points for anyone for this round, but we got 2 more rounds for someone to take a lead. We'll move on to the first headline. So first headline today is DARPA is creating a travel adapter that will be implanted in soldiers' bodies. So this article is talking about how soldiers who travel overseas for tours often suffer from things like jet lag, traveler's diarrhea, and a bunch of other health conditions and concerns. So DARPA has been working on an implantable device called the travel adapter, which will either be implantable or ingestible, basically a bioelectronic carrier that will provide soldiers with control over their own physiology. The 2 use cases that they talked about so far is being able to adjust sleep cycles. So imagine being able to set your time zone back or get into a different sleep pattern after a night's mission. Totally crazy, but so interesting. And the other use case they talked about is being able to eliminate bacteria that causes traveler's diarrhea after ingesting any sort of contaminated food or water. So question to you all, embedded technologies aren't that new for medical purposes, right? People have been using pacemakers and other sort of prosthetics for a long time. Where do you see implantable devices like this augmenting or upgrading the human experience for us in the future?
You know what? I'll jump in. I actually think this is further away than we think it is. I think this is a big jump to go from something that is not required, like a pacemaker, for life, versus something that's, to stop you from having diarrhea. I think we're a long cry away from this. We've, as you've said, we've seen a lot of these things happen. Probably 10 years ago, they were looking at implantable RFID tags, and like I know of nobody that has done that. And so I actually think this is further afield than maybe what DARPA is hoping.
Yeah, and I'll try not to be too Canadian and be agreeable and apologize and say yes and please, and I'll try and provide a different perspective. But I do agree with Sid on this one. I think this one is further away than we think, specifically when it relates to sleep and anything where it requires like a long-term data set to actually understand the implications of what altering your circadian rhythm is going to do for long-term. If anyone's read Why We Sleep, like the suprachiasmatic nucleus, that's the most badass term for a human body component. But anyways, that part of the hypothalamus is incredibly complex, and we're just starting to understand it. So augmenting your circadian rhythm for short term, we just don't understand what that long-term implication is going to be.
Yeah, my perspective on it is, I think I think this is the direction we're definitely going. I think what it's going to look like from a consumer experience standpoint is going to look more like a toy than like an actual anti-diarrhea type thing. So I think like whatever it is, I think like what Snap was doing or is doing with spectacles was kind of interesting and kind of like going in that direction. So I think you're gonna see, if we can't figure out spectacles yet, I don't see us, implanting things into our brain just yet, but probably in about 10 to 15 years.
What about non-implantables and just more toy-like things like you talked about, Greg? I mean, I was walking the other day and I saw someone running with these very weird, like pogo stick-esque running shoes that have like springy things on them. I mean, that's an easy example of human augmentation. Are things like that, maybe not silly running shoes, but other ways in which we can augment ourselves either for performance or for fun, closer than maybe an implantable? And have you guys seen anything like that?
Yeah, I think Jay's actually probably best suited on this panel to actually talk about kind of augmentation and what we can do. I think any of that stuff that's not implantable, I think all of that stuff is game, and we would all use it. And this is no different to me than the success that Jay would have had with Recon, right? Like all of that stuff makes sense, and it's easy, and it's stuff that my kids would use, or my wife would use, or my friend would use. None of them would implant all of that technology today. And so I think there is a big jump to get to implantable technology.
Yeah, I think that's largely right. I think that areas like exoskeletons and being able to supplement like your strength, performance, that stuff is starting to come to market already. So I think that's going to be a near-term reality. The AR and VR world. So thinking about like a product like Recon, which was heads-up display for snow goggles and cycling glasses, the market never really caught up to where the technology was. And I think we're now entering a phase where the market readiness and willingness to adopt something like that is finally catching up, and there's starting to be interesting market opportunities there. You can see that with Vuzix and what they're doing from an industrial application for AR, and what even Magic Leap is supposedly trying to accomplish. Like, I think there's finally going to be some breakthroughs in that AR space.
And you'll see some of those heads-up AR displays becoming more ubiquitous, maybe even outside of sports, like people walking around with Recon-style glasses.
So I think the consumer appeal of a Google Glass version 2 is not, it's still not caught up yet. The market is not there. I think where you're first to see is going to be an industrial application. So military, heavy industry, those kinds of applications for AR, I think are going to see the initial adoption.
It's kind of like the cycle in most things, which is like, I mean, think about like the internet itself. Like it had military applications, and then eventually there was a consumer application. I think like basically what's happened over the last 60 years is that window has shortened. So like the military to consumer window a lot of times is shortened.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, we'll move on. We got a cartoon for the section. Cartoonist, you want to show us what you got?
Yeah, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the first one.
The best part is winning the war on street names. Nice.
And the second one.
Well, the jet lag is gone, but it still hasn't removed that embarrassing moment from 8th grade.
And
Nice.
that's all I got.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome.
We'll move on to the next headline. All right, so this one is programmer uses AI filter to deepfake Elon Musk during Zoom meeting. So this headline is about a video that was going around that showed basically Elon Musk popping into a three-way Zoom call, despite SpaceX actually banning Zoom. Turns out it wasn't him, and it was in fact a programmer named Eli Alib who created a tool called Avatar using open source libraries, which is pretty interesting. This new library allows you to basically turn yourself into any sort of avatar, providing that there's enough video of that person. So imagine Britney Spears, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, those kind of people. It can be used in real time, similar to a snap cam, to take anyone's form. And the code is actually available today for anyone on GitHub to use, which is pretty interesting. Question to you all. Obviously, we've been hearing a lot about the negative implications and potential concerns of deepfakes. What are some of the benefits and good uses and sort of lighthearted things that you guys have seen, or even moving away from lighthearted, more serious, positive uses?
Yeah, I could get my hair back. Like, you kidding me? That's number one. It would, like, I could have whatever I wanted.
Only on Zoom calls, though.
Only on Zoom calls. Yes.
I mean, from my perspective, I think like the internet is like, this is like an example of like kind of, on one hand it's fun, on the other hand it's like, you know, I think a bit wild. It kind of blows your mind. But I think like overall what I like about what's happening with sort of like snap camera and deep fakes and AI filters in the entertainment context, it's just like, it's fun. Like, people are having fun, like they're laughing, like we're all sitting at home or on Zooms. Like, the least we can do is have a little fun somehow. That being said, my like Zoom background is probably the least fun Zoom background there is. But
I thought that was your real background until you held up your hand.
It's almost it's almost as shitty to, you know, it kind of looks like it would be, you know, my real background, but that's sort of the thing. And I think it's cool that we can have fun, and that's what excites me about the internet. One of the things.
Yeah, and sticking with that entertainment vein, like I think the potential for deepfakes of you know, having Tupac concerts and things like that from an entertainment perspective, super fun to think about that angle.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we just saw some concerts in Fortnite during COVID. So, I mean, there's some really interesting ways to do this, and people are logging in. So I think getting some entertainment out of this is fantastic. And ultimately, this use is going to drive other use cases as well that may be a little bit more serious. So.
Yeah, there was the Travis Scott one recently that attracted 10 to 16 million people. Yeah.
They did Marshmallow before that, and
Did you're watching all the good music.
There you go.
Any last thoughts on deepfakes before we move on to the next game?
I mean, it kind of relates to what we were talking to last time. Like, it starts off looking like a toy. It starts off looking like entertainment, and then it just gets entrenched into our lives.
Any real use cases aside from entertainment that you could see it taking on in the future, Greg?
Yes, but I think the most interesting is going to be entertainment.
Cool. We'll move on to the next game. So this one is multiple choice. So we've got a headline here with a blank, and one of the correct answers is one of the three options below. So this time I'm going to have you write down your answers on the piece of paper, and when everyone gives a thumbs up saying that they're ready, you can just display it to the screen. This round is worth 10 points, so chance for someone to claim first place. So this headline is, Ontario businesses are taping debit machines to blank, and it's so Canadian. Is it A, canoe paddles, B, hockey sticks, or C, snow shovels? So just give me a thumbs up when you have your answer written down, and then we'll have everyone show their answer to the screen. Awesome. So just display the answer to the screen.
Sorry,
No, I saw it. Greg, you've got B there. Jay, you got B.
I did C.
So correct answer is in fact hockey sticks, B. So
okay.
it's 10 points to Greg and Jay, which I'll just write down quickly. So this is primarily used in drive-through, actually. The picture that I saw in the headline was a Tim Hortons and them passing one of the debit terminals through the drive-through window into a car with a hockey stick. What's funny is that some news outlets in Canada, so I read in the article, have been referring to social distancing length as hockey stick length, which is like, again, a very Canadian thing. Yeah, that's that headline. We'll move on to the next headline, which is Facebook is using bots to simulate what its users might do. So what this article is talking about is that Facebook needs to be able to test its product just like any other software company. The trouble it runs into is when you have 2.5 billion users, some of those test cases are really hard to find. And what they've found is that a lot of the major problems they run into end up coming out of complex interactions between users. So what they've built is basically a scaled down version of the real live platform that's run live in production, which they call WW, which I wonder if it's code for Westworld is like an inside joke. But the idea is that they've had hundreds of thousands of fake users that are simulated as a mix of hard-coded and machine learning-based bots to basically take the interactions and actions that all of us would take on Facebook to see what sort of issues that they can uncover. So I might take this in a different direction. When I read this article, something I thought about was there's been a couple of companies like Replica and one called Avec, which is actually another Canadian, Sandy McPherson, that are working on creating digital versions of ourselves, replicas of ourselves, as a way to do a bunch of different things. I mean, one, analyze our own behaviors and ways of being. You know, they talk about like being able to practice for like a job interview or like a relationship conversation, like taking a glimpse within yourself. Seems like this is kind of, you know, taking that Facebook user testing, but taking it to yourself. Do you guys see a future where these kind of digital twins play a bigger role, or just other thoughts on this style of simulated social network from the Facebook article?
I can start. So I think this is pretty much, we went from basically the golden age of social from like 2004 to 2017 maybe. Then it was like the abyss of social for 2 years, and now it's the golden age again. There's so much opportunity to bring people together using social technology. House Party is the #1 app in the App Store. TikTok's obviously doing well. You know, there's a lot of examples of this. A popular Silicon Valley app called Clubhouse, well. And I just think that like this sort of like concept is like the bottom of the totem pole in terms of like experiences that people are interested in. Although it's interesting, I just don't see it as like having mass adoption, and I don't see it having mass adoption for a long time, if ever.
Yeah.
Why bottom?
I think there's just so much appetite for like you know, creating platforms for moms to get together, creating platforms for college kids to get together, creating platforms that are audio only and book clubs and wine. And there's just so much social technology that is just like higher order bit that I think that something like this is just, there's less appetite for it from a consumer perspective.
Yeah, I would agree on the consumer side. I think something like this is interesting as a tool for operationalizing AI and ultimately helping you to, you know, train your models and do some things like that. I think, you know, it becomes an interesting tool for something else, but less on the direct consumer application.
What do you think the real motivation of Facebook is to do something like this?
I don't know. Do you have a good answer?
I don't. I mean, I'm always a little bit skeptical, and I have to be careful because my girlfriend works for Facebook, so I have to tread carefully here. But my skeptical
Can we bring her into
here,
the Zoom?
Yeah. The skeptical side of me would say that this is an ideal way for them to test how different ad formats are going to perform with their user base, and then work towards optimizing the performance of their ad network.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what this is, right? Like, I actually don't see this being anything else other than that, right? Is quite frankly just helping them to operationalize their business better and get better insights faster at the end of the day, right? And allow them to operationalize quicker.
Do you guys see any other potential uses for things like simulated social networks or even just simulation of human interactions?
So we've gone through that years ago with something called Second Life, right? And it was really for people who had no lives at the time. And so I think we're still a ways off of ever kind of getting back to something like that. Although, you know what, some of the video games that we have now are probably pretty close to that, right?
I mean, you guys brought up Fortnite earlier, right? That's almost
totally
getting to that level.
Yeah, at least,
I think that's kind of, I think what's happening right now is you have gaming on one end and you have social networks on the other end. And some of the largest social networks, like basically there's this convergence happening. So gaming platforms are starting to look a lot more like social products, and social products are starting to look a lot more like gaming products.
Cool. We'll move on. Got a cartoon for this segment as well. Cartoonist, what do you got for us?
Yeah. Let's see. I was just writing the caption on one. Can you guys see my screen?
No, not yet.
not yet.
Now we can.
Got it.
Here's one.
Yeah.
A little role reversal here. And then this one. A little Truman Show of bots.
Yeah.
The one I was wrapping up was this programmer that is a little bit disappointed that these are the kind of bots that she's making. Cocktail photos with "Take Me Back to Cabo" captions.
Awesome. We'll move on to the last headline for today. So this one builds a bit on our last conversation, actually. This is Online Town solves the most annoying thing about Zoom parties. So Online Town is basically a new video chat platform that tries to solve Zoom problems like being able to speak over participants, inability to have side chats, those kind of things. And basically how it works is it gives you a game-like layout. So they've got a bunch of fun ones like New York City as an example, and you're represented by an avatar on the map. And as you get closer to a group of people, those are the people that you end up sharing your video and audio with. And as you move away from those people, you move away from those conversations as well. So it allows you to, sorry, there's a lot of reverb on my end. It allows you to have conversations that are more like real life conversations. Question to you guys. Are virtual and online worlds the future of remote collaboration, long distance communication? What are your thoughts on this kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know what you guys are seeing, but I know most of the people that I interact with are dying to get away from Zoom right now. I mean, it's been great out of necessity, but people need to have more social interaction. So I'm seeing people meeting in driveways and meeting in parks that are like 5 feet apart and doing different things. The Zoom has been absolutely amazing given the circumstances that we're all forced to be in. But I think people are very much looking forward to never having to open up another Zoom party again.
Yeah, I'm totally there. Although you got to give credit where credit's due. Like the Zoom product is incredible. And when you go to something else, when you go to a Google Hangouts or some other video chat interface, it's night and day how much better the Zoom platform is. But I agree that this world of continuous partial attention is draining, and I don't think it can persist for a lot longer. I think we're stretching the limits of human psychology and willingness to adapt to something like this, which is why I said, to your point, you're starting to see people in driveways and doing the social distance cocktail hours and whatnot. Yeah. But I think this idea in particular is really cool. The issue of people talking over each other in Zoom meetings, like Zoom breaks once you get a certain number of people on a call. And it especially breaks when you introduce more than 10 people plus alcohol. That's a deadly combination for Zoom. It's done. So I think something like this is gangbusters for that use case.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must have some interesting thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective on this is, first of all, I love Online Town. I think it's brilliant. I think, you know, I don't believe that Zoom is the end all and be all of, you know, consumer video communication. I think like there's more product innovation than a Brady Bunch style version of video chat. I think you're going to see dozens of video chat and virtual party type companies spring up. I'm hearing a lot that are in stealth mode that have raised a lot of money and stuff like that. I saw today that Squad, I think it's Get Squad is their website, which is a consumer app for sharing your screen and having video conversations, but like targeted towards Gen Z. You can share like GIFs and stuff like that, just more consumery focused. I think you're going to, they're doing really well. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And I think it's early days for virtual chats, virtual parties, virtual clubs, virtual everything.
What does that look like for the work environment? I mean, think about some of the conferences that have been canceled. I mean, is this a better solution than just watching like a boring webinar, like being able to get some of the interaction fun of going to a concert?
Yeah, I think, for events specifically, the issue rate I think there's a few platforms right now that I've seen. Hopin is one that's done a pretty good job that basically allows you to power online events, have those side conversations, have like a live stream network. I think like in the professional networking context, like they're like the leading people, and I'm excited to see what more comes out of that. I mean, the bottom line is like, even when we do go back to quote unquote normal, I think, people will be traveling less, and people have less money. They've been a lot of people unemployed, unfortunately. So I think, we'll see what happens, but I'm excited about it.
Awesome. We'll move on to the last game of the episode. So this is worth 20 points. So Sid, an opportunity for you to come out up front.
There you go.
So this is fill in the blank. 20 points if you get the answer right, and 10 points if you come up with something outrageously funny. So again, just write your answers down on a piece of paper and give me the thumbs up when you're ready, and we'll all reveal at the same time. But the headline is, for $100, you can have a blank drop by your next video conference. And just thumbs up when you're all ready to go. All right, so display your answers to the screen.
No
idea.
The word A for grammatically correctness.
Kim Jong-un, a whiz, and no idea. So the correct answer is a llama or a goat. So there's a company, it's actually a farm that's based in the Bay Area called Sweet Farm that launched a service called Goat to Meeting, which is similar to Cameo. You can basically have them join on Zoom, but they're at their farm and they'll like use the camera on a goat or a llama. My girlfriend, actually, their company had a llama and a goat drop into their company-wide all hands last week, which was like, it was really funny. Again, going back to like having fun in this crazy digital time. Packages range from like $65 to $225. You can get an entire tour of the farm, which is pretty interesting. Or the sweet spot is for $100. You can have a 10-minute cameo from one of the animals, which I may actually do on one of the next episodes now that I'm thinking about it. Cool. So that means that it's a tie this week between Greg and Jay. I'll email you guys after the episode about your prize. So just before we wrap up here, this is where you're able to find all of our guests today online. Thanks again, guys, for joining me. And one final note, just one last time, all the headlines from this week came from a newsletter I work on called This Week in Creative Technology. Sign up at bit.ly, join Future Fridays. Thanks so much, guys. This was awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Take care. Cheers.
Bye.